Welcome again, my friend. In this video, we are going to create 3 scenes, and each of those scenes is going to have a nice-ish looking button with some nice-ish looking font. I say nice-ish because I haven't spent a ton of time on this. So when we mouse over, we get a highlighted effect. When we click on it, we get a click effect, and we have each of those in each of our 3 scenes, the correct button for the correct scene, set up with our nice text so that in the following video, we're going to be ready to load our scenes when we click the button. So let's jump in and make the buttons and the scenes. We've been playing around with aspect ratio a bunch. I'm just going to leave mine at 1080 for now. I find that makes it look nice and crisp. We're going to turn our attention to buttons. We have a button already with some pretty yucky text on it that we can't really even read, so let's do something about that. First, I will rename my button to Start Button, so I'm very clear this is what will start our game, and change actually I'm going to delete the text underneath, because this is created with the standard text. We want to use our Text Mesh Pro text, which is much nicer looking text. So I'm going to delete the text game object child that we had under Start Button and jump down to Packages. You can see that in the version of Unity I'm using, we have a Packages folder underneath our project window, and I have in there Text Mesh Pro, which means Text Mesh Pro is already installed. If you don't see it there, you might need to go up to Window and Package Manager, open up your Package Manager, click on All, and find Text Mesh Pro from in here, and go about the process through here of installing it. We did that in the previous section, so I'm not going to go through that again. Hopefully you can see Text Mesh Pro as packages. Because it's here, it means that we can start using its components and its elements straight away. So I'm going to click on Start Button in our hierarchy, right-click, go to UI, and add Text Mesh Pro Text. You can see we have Text Mesh Pro Text added here. Change the name of that to Start Text. And within the text input box in the inspector, I will change the wording here from button to start. That should be written on the button. I will change the color and color vertex to something that we can see for now. Not putting too much time into colors in this moment, just getting it in there so we can see it, and changing the font up to, I'll say 80. Okay, it's good enough for now. Now, we're using just whatever the standard preset font is. I'm going to go ahead and grab my own font, and because we have a wizardy kind of theme, I'm over to dafont.com, and I've searched for wizard. I find a font called Wizardry, which I'm going to install. I'm not providing you this font, although it's 100% free. I don't necessarily have distribution rights for that. So again, if you want to have some different font, go ahead and find some cool font that you think is pretty neat from Dafont. Try to make sure you get something that's either 100% free, or if it's donationware, chip in some money to the person who's provided it. So I do have that for me. You can just use the font that is there at the moment and everything will work just fine. I'll have mine look a little bit prettier. And just a note, I was going to drag this in, which is what we can do. If dragging in is not working for you, and I've seen a couple of questions in the Q&A, how else can we do that if dragging in doesn't work? We can go up to Assets, Import New Asset, and then find the font file. For me, it's called Wizardry. Double click on that, and that will import our font asset file. That's a different way to import things into your game. Okay, and so we have our font here. I'm going to right-click, create folder, and call this fonts. Nice to keep things tidy. At the moment, we have small projects, but good habits. Trust me, when you have your massive, amazing, killer game that's going to earn you fame and fortune, you want to have your folders set up because you'll have a lot of content in there. Drag our font into the font folders. Now, next step is for us within Text Mesh Pro. So let's go and find Text Mesh Pro, Window, Text Mesh Pro, Font Asset Creator. We've done this before. Font Source, I'm going to click the selector. We've only got one font, Wizardry. Double click on that. Generate Font Atlas. Wait a moment for it to generate. Generation progress. Dun, 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 dun. Elevator music while we're doing that. Okay, that was pretty quick. Save Text Mesh Pro font asset into our fonts folder. We're in there already. Save that. Beautiful. Now we can close the asset creator. We don't need you anymore. Thanks very much. And we have ourselves in here, Text Mesh Pro. In our fonts folder, we have wizardry.asset. Brilliant. Okay, back over to our start text. We're going to change the font asset by clicking the selector. We find whatever font you've brought in. Mine's called Wizardry. And we see a little bit of wizardry magic going on our button here. Cool. That works just the way we want it to work. Now, while I'm here, I'm going to change my text box so it fits nice and neatly within our button there and there, just to tidy it up so it's snapping perfectly in the middle. Now with the button itself, let's make it a slightly different color. If we go over to our Start button, I'm going to change the we can either change up here the color on the image, so I can change that to say red, it'll change the color here, or undo that, or I can click on the normal color, click on that and change it to red as well. Undo that. I'm going to make a yellowish kind of button just so it pops nice and neatly. There we go. Yellow button for start. There we are with yellow. What color do we want for our text now over the top? Doesn't really matter so much. I'll just leave it black for now, but you can play around with the colors if you would like. Now, the cool thing about buttons is that when we mouse over a button, we want to have it change. We want to have some sort of feedback, some affordance is the technical word for that. And we have options in here under our button to change the highlight color and the press color. So the highlight color, I'll make that kind of a darker yellow than we've got already, something that maybe a little bit more orange to say, yes, I've moused over that. And then for the pressed color, we'll give that more of a darker again, I think. Darker down there, say clonk, you've pressed on it. See how it goes. Okay, so now I've got three colors, the normal color, the highlight color, and the pressed color. If we click play, we can see these in action. Wait for the game to compile. And I've got maximize on play clicked on. That's why my window went very large there. And as we mouse over, I can see that it changes color. And when I click, there is some feedback. Cool. Okay, I'm going to turn off maximize on play from now on, just so we don't accidentally maximize on play. And as I've mentioned before, if you go into your TextMesh Pro settings, you can do a whole bunch of magic in here, change a bunch of things. I'm not going to play around with that at the moment, but if you like to, put a little bit more flair into your text on your button, you can absolutely do that. What we're going to do now is a little bit of a challenge. Your mission, if you choose to accept it, is make 3 scenes and buttons. Create a nice looking start button as a starting point, and then create the following scenes and the following buttons in the scene. So you want a start menu scene, which is what we've just been doing with a start button, as well as 2 more scenes, a core game scene and a win screen scene. And on the core game scene, have a success button that can be placed anywhere. Don't worry about the placement for now. Just have a button there. And on the win screen, we're looking to have a play again button. So that's your challenge. Create those scenes and those buttons. You should have all the information that you need to do that. When you come back, I'll go through my solution to that. Good luck and see you in a moment. Okay, welcome back. I'm going to start off by making sure I've saved my start menu scene, and then I'll duplicate this by doing Control D or Command D. That will duplicate the entire scene and everything within it. I'll rename this to Core Game. I have a Core Game now, Core Game scene, and double click on Core Game, and you can see that it's exactly the same. It's really cool. Just to demonstrate that, I'll go into Start menu, move the Start button up just a little bit. Bloop. I hit the W key to get my move tool, and then save. Each time you're switching scene, you need to save to make sure the changes you've made are saved from that previous scene. We are now in core game. It's a little bit different to start menu, which is cool. In my core game, I don't need this handsome looking fellow in there. Get rid of him. What I do need is a button that is going to be what? This needs to be our correct button. So pretty easy. I need to rename from start button, rename this to success button. Just a side note on creating scenes, we could have gone up to File, New Scene, and then added things manually, but this way we get to keep our progress with our button by duplicating it. So we have our core game, and it shouldn't say start, our success button should be saying, I'll change this up here, success text. It's got to be nice and clear in our naming. We'll call this success. It's not going to fit into my button, so I can either reduce the font size or change the button. For now, I will change the size of the button. And you can see when I click on the button itself, click on our rect tool, as I change the size of the button, it changes the scaling of the child underneath it because we've anchored that to the sides of our button. Very cool. Okay, we have success. Now, save that, and I'm going to, let's see, I'll duplicate my start menu. Control D or Command D. We now have another start menu. We'll rename this one to Win Screen. Double click on Win Screen. Get rid of that fine fellow. I've given you, against one of the previous lectures, I gave you a Ben image. Let's go up to Canvas, right click, UI, Image. We will drag the image to where we want it to be. W, down the side there. Make it bigger with the rect tool. Boink. Blank just as a starting point. Click on the image itself, change the source image from Sprite None to Benny Potter. Haha, hilarious. Can't wait for Ben to watch this and see what he thinks about me putting some goggles on him and a funny hat. Set native size button, move him to the corner, anchor down in the bottom left corner as we've done before, and holding down shift, scale up. There we go. So Ben represents the game over and finish, and Rick represents the start, so we can keep track of our different screens there. We still have a start button. Change the start button to play again button up in the inspector. Now I click on open up the text. We have start text. Oh, just while I'm here, bad form. Shouldn't leave that as image. Should leave that as Ben image, just so we're very clear. When we have 100 images in there, we don't want to be trying to guess what it is. Change the start text to, what is this? It's play again text, and then within the text box, play again. Now, our button is not quite fitting, so let's click on the play again button itself. We're on the rect tool, just drag it out so there's a bit more space, drag it down so it fits okay. We can see that our words are right touching each other. Let's go and figure out how to give a little bit more space between our text down here. And we can see under font settings, we have spacing options. I can see there is a line, so we could do characters, which would space out our characters, or words. For line, whoops, I clicked the auto size button there. For line, let's put that up to say 10. Okay, that looks nicely spaced apart, a little bit better. Make my button box a bit larger. No, the actual button box a bit larger. There we go. I'd accidentally clicked on the text when I was changing it, so if you clicked on the text and you're changing that, that'll just change the text positioning, but if we click on the button, which is the parent, it'll change the button size and the text underneath will be scaled. Very cool. Let's click play and just check that our highlighting works, that we've brought it in. Okay, yeah, it seems to work. Click on it and mouse over it. Great. Okay, so now we have 3 scenes and 3 buttons. We have start menu, core game, and win screen. I'm going to save this. Each of those has their button within it, so we're ready to hook up the functionality. In the next video, we'll be doing that, so clicking the button will load the next scene. Okay, great work, and see you in the next lecture.